And so I want to share that with you. And what I don't want you to forget is I don't want you to forget that we are teachers, right? And maybe some of you might say, excuse me, I'm an administrator. Okay, well, you were a teacher at one time, right? What do teachers do? We make it work, okay? We make it work anywhere, anytime, with or without, okay? Oh, ma'am, we don't have enough books for your class. What do? We make it work, right? And I'm not just saying, I'm saying every district. So don't go out and say, oh, she was saying some Benito. No. Every district, I've worked in maybe like 8 different districts. Oh, I'm missing paper and pencil. Oh, you know what? The lady who's supposed to give it to us is absent or whatever it is. But what do we do as teachers? We make it work. How many times we were going to get observed by our principal, right? We have everything perfect, everything done. And that day, the internet goes out, right? Or something doesn't work. And what did we do? We didn't say, oh, stop, principal. Can you come back tomorrow to observe me? It'll be a better day. Today's not a good day. No, we keep going, right? And so with that, I want to share with you that this is very deep and very important. And I'm going to go back to stop sharing so that I can have a conversation with you and see your beautiful faces. Is that right now we are experiencing trauma, right? And trauma is an emotional shock. It's a stressful event. And for some people, we have traumatic experiences that are tragic. For some of us, we have traumatic experiences that shake us to our core. There's many different types of trauma. And because I experienced trauma many years ago, it was a horrific situation. And those of you that know me and have been in my sessions before, you know the story. I have learned that trauma is a crisis, right? And when we were going through this COVID, I started recognizing, wow, this is trauma. This is a traumatic event that is happening, not just for our kids and our parents. Primarily, I'm talking to you as teachers and educators, to us. So the one thing that I know and that I've discovered from being a teacher myself, having teacher friends, doing a couple of little surveys here and there, reading from different universities, the different surveys that are popping up, right, is that we are not okay. Us as teachers right now in this moment, we are not okay. Now, you might have somebody that says, oh, I'm okay. I'm good. No, you're not. Stop lying. Okay. We are not okay. Now, I'm not saying that that some people cannot be okay. They can, but even at the end of the day, when you put your head to go to sleep, you're worried. You're thinking about your students, about your family members, about your job. Am I going back to work Monday? Am I not? I still haven't received the email because the state hasn't made up their mind, or the judge, or whatever, right? We are not okay. So as I'm finding out and learning about teachers and parents, right, we know these are the themes that kept coming up in the surveys and in the questions, right? Teachers are hurting. They are stressed. We are stressed. We are afraid. Some of us are angry, like, if anybody says anything to me, I'm going to snap, right? Some of us are over it, right? I might say, you know what, I'm so over it. Yeah, okay, I'm over it, but we still have to keep going, right? Some of us are sad, depressed, scared, because we don't know what is happening. We can no longer plan like we used to plan. We can't. Maybe we make a plan and then it can't. Like, for example, I was going to have a book reveal on Saturday. I already planned for it. Because of safety, the judge in our county said no huge events, even if they're outside. I had to cancel. And that's okay, because now we have learned to go with it, right? We have learned to remain strong. So with this, I'm going to share something very special with you, something that I grew up with. And when I started, I didn't jump in saying a couple of things about me. Number one, of course, that I'm a Greyhound. Once a Greyhound, always a Greyhound, right? If they hear me in Westlaco, they're going to be like, hey, what's going on with you, right? And I'll tell them they gave me my first job. Okay. Number two, I'm a storyteller. I love to tell stories that are true and real, that connect with us. I love to code switch, Inglés, Español, Español, Inglés. And if people say to me, why are you code switching? Excuse me, it's called translanguaging. It is a gift, high order, right? I also love tacos de trompo, San Benito. When I used to go in person, the first place I would go to as soon as they said lunch is La Vaquita. Tacos de trompo right there by Miller Jordan. OMG, right? And I served in the U.S. Army Reserves as an immigrant 100 years ago, right after high school. So I have a lot of crazy experiences. And then, of course, the experience of being a teacher. So here is my hook for you as far as this keynote. Many of you that grew up like me grew up learning about this guy, right? And he would say, no contaban con mi astucia, right? No contaban con mi astucia. Whenever something happened, whenever there was a stressful event, whenever something chaotic happened that nobody knew what to do, he would pop out of nowhere and he would say, no contaban con mi astucia. Now, what does that even mean? Now, even though I'm going to translate it, right? But it's kind of one of those things that you can translate, but not really. But basically what he meant is nobody was counting on my cunningness, on being that I'm cunning. Nobody was counting that I had what it took or that I have what it took. Nobody was counting on it, right? So now I'm going to stop sharing so I can see your beautiful faces again. So in this whole COVID thing that we're experiencing, we know that it's not going away tomorrow, right? Yes, can we throw a tantrum? Absolutely. We are entitled to it. I have thrown tantrums too. Like, I can't handle it, whatever, right? Number one, it's very important, my teacher friends, that we build a community. What does that mean? That we stay connected with each other, with our friends, with our colleagues, with our teachers, because we need each other. Now, it's also important that we stay connected with positive people because energy is contagious. Research shows it, right? If I was here talking to you and I would say, guys, so good luck, you guys. I don't even know how we're going to make it. All of us would be feeling the same way because energy is contagious. So we need to have community. Why do we need to have community? Because we need to talk to people about what we're feeling. Many of us think I'm the only one. I'm the worst teacher in the world because I don't like Google Classroom or because I still haven't learned or because my kids aren't logging in. No, everybody is feeling the same way. I will tell you, and I'm going to be very honest with you. About a week and a half ago, I had a really tough day. Well, actually, it's been crazy. But that day I was missing my dad. My daughter's teacher had gone to go meet her in an event, which I thought was the most beautiful gift, right? Because it just played out the kindness of teachers. And I was just feeling everything was coming to me, right? And I was driving and I said to myself, yeah, that's it. I'm over this. I'm over it. Maybe I said a couple of bad words, right? I'm over it. And all I could think of is, okay, pues you're over it. What else? Like life still goes on. And all I could think of, my beautiful teacher friends, which I see so many here that I recognize and that I remember, and you know who you are. I remember telling myself, well, who do I get to call? Because I do the sessions on social emotional learning. I mean, who do I get to call, right? I mean, yes, I pray and all that, but whose session am I going to go to, right? So that I can feel better because I was really wanting to cry and I think crying is good. So you know what I did? I called my friend, a teacher in Harlingen, and I said, you know, Kathy, I'm having a tough day. And she said, hey, you know, you can call me anytime. And what happened is I started talking about what was going on with my son, David, who was failing 20 classes, although he only has 6, right? Because he believes that if a class assignment is due at midnight, he believes he can turn it in at 11:59. Okay. So do you see what I'm saying? And so we were talking and she started telling me stories that were going on in her class. She said, hey, I have a little boy in kinder and I turned on the Zoom to have class. And the little boy was like, Miss, hold on, I got to put on my underwears, you know? And she was like, oh my God, right? So these are, and of course, nobody saw because the little boy didn't have the camera on. But these are things that happen, right? And so after a while, I was laughing, she was laughing. She's like, we're gonna get through this. We've gotten through worse, right? The next thing that I feel is very important is that you need to stop and check yourself and be proud of yourself. How many times as teachers do you give kids extra credit? Miss, can I have extra credit? Oh, well, you're flunking. I mean, come on, grades are due in 5 minutes. I know, miss, can I have extra credit? And what do? We help the student, give them extra credit or whatever, right? Maybe bring me a taco, you might have an extra credit, right? Especially if it's from La Vaquita. But how many times do you give yourself extra credit? How many times do you stop there and say, hey, you know what? I'm doing the best that I can. I am doing the best that I can under these circumstances. There's a book that I had read a while back. I want to say it was a Brene Brown book, and she was talking about how they were on a flight, and there was this lady on the flight, and she had a little baby, and it was a 2-year-old, right? And the 2-year-old was crying and screaming, and everybody would keep looking back, like, oh, this kid, right? Cállenlo, be quiet. And nobody was helping. They were just looking and rolling their eyes, like, oh my God, right? The lady turns around and yells to everybody and says, holding the baby, trying to get the baby to be quiet, saying, I'm trying the best that I can. I'm trying the best that I can, right? And everybody on that plane felt bad. So what I want you to do is I want you to recognize, what have you learned during March? A lot, okay? What have you been able to go through? A lot, right? So what happens is 10 years from now, maybe you'll be mentoring a student teacher, and that student teacher tells you, oh, this is so hard. You can say, sweetie pie, I taught during COVID and my laptop didn't work for 2 weeks and I made it work. What are you talking about? Recognize what you are doing. You are doing the best that you can, and you are doing amazing, okay? Don't allow all this negativity, oh, teachers, y que this and that. Do you want to switch places with me and teach my class online? Let's do it. Because you know what I've been thinking about? Only the teachers know what we're going through. Only the teachers know, right? The teacher knows, okay, you're teaching class, and guess what? You have parents in the background watching what you're doing. So imagine having your principal doing an evaluation and all your 25 parents there. Ay, mira la maestra. Ay, look at her house. Oh, she needs to clean up. I have seen it and I have heard it, guys, right? So only we know what we're going through, right? Our superintendents and our board members and our administrators, everybody's trying really hard to help us. But at the end of the day, who knows the reality? Only us. So make sure that you give yourself that credit, and that you say, you know what? I'm not going to be looking at the negatives today. I'm going to be looking at the positives. And the positive is that now I'm a professional in Zoom. Now I'm a professional in Google, right? One time, and this is something that is very true, research shows that when people go through trauma, difficult events, there's 2 things that could happen. One, we break down and we give up and we turn into like very bad people, negative people, or we can use that experience as something positive to help us grow, right? So I remember going to therapy for the trauma that I survived, right? And I remember the therapist asking me this, and this is something that I want you to think about. And she said to me, well, I'm going to say to you, look at yourself on March 13th, 2020. For many of us, we were getting ready to go to spring break. Party time, you know, I'm going to wake up late. Look at the person you were that Friday. Maybe you didn't go to work, okay? Who now forward to October 28th, who are you today? Are you a different person for the better? Okay. Do you have more knowledge and skill and patience and compassion? Are you a different person? Yes. If you are not a different person, if you're still the same person, then really we haven't grown. But I know everybody here has grown. Something else that's very important to me as a teacher and as a parent and just an advocate for kids is that also show grace to your students. By showing grace, we're giving grace to ourselves. So what does that look like? You know, maybe your student's not logging in, and I've heard it 1,000 times. No, hombre, these kids, they don't care. They don't care. Nobody has even paid attention, logged in, or whatever. Well, sometimes if we were to find out the reason, we would be able to understand. So to give you a story, my daughter-in-law shared with me that she had a student in high school who messaged her and told her, "Ma'am, my parents work, my sister and my brother work. I'm watching my nieces and nephews. I have them all in the living room with their little laptops and whatever we can find, and I am the one logging them in, logging them out. There's no way, ma'am, that I could be in your